The mother orangutan gave her baby to the heartbroken dad orangutan. What he did was beautiful. The air inside the great primate sanctuary enclosure was thick and stagnant, heavily laden with the heavy, humid promise of rain that had been building since dawn. The sky above the dense canopy of ancient ficus trees had bruised into a deep, volatile violet, casting a strange twilight-like illumination over the sprawling landscape, even though it was midday. In this suspended, breathless atmosphere, a scene of impossible heartbreak was quietly unfolding, one that completely defied millions of years of evolutionary programming and wild instinct. Maya, a wildly, fiercely protective mother orangutan, sat slumped against the rough, moss-covered bark of a fallen mahogany tree. Her magnificent, long sunset-colored fur, usually meticulously groomed and gleaming with natural oils, was matted and dull, plastered to her skin by a cold, unnatural sweat. In her arms rested her newborn infant, a tiny, fragile creature with silken skin and wide, uncomprehending eyes, emitting soft, desperate whimpers. By every law of nature, a female orangutan is the sole universe for her infant, clinging to them continuously for years. Yet, with a trembling, agonizing slowness, Maya began to peel the baby's tiny, grasping fingers from the warmth of her chest. She did not reach out to the human keepers standing anxiously beyond the reinforced safety glass. Instead, she turned her fading gaze toward the shadows of the enclosure, extending her long, shivering arms toward Booty, the massive, brooding silhouette of the infant's father. Adult male orangutans are solitary wanderers, biologically unequipped and instinctively unsuited for child-rearing. But as Maya offered up her most precious creation, the atmosphere grew dense with the acidic scent of pain and an invisible, crushing sorrow. Booty stepped forward from the shadows, his immense leathery hands reaching out. Why would a mother voluntarily surrender her newborn child? What unseen, devastating tragedy had forced her to overwrite her most fundamental biological imperative? Before we unravel the profound mystery of this heartbroken father and the ultimate desperate sacrifice of a mother's boundless love, we invite you to pause and join our growing community of animal lovers. If stories of deep, unspoken animal empathy and the incredible emotional lives of the creatures we share this planet with touch your soul, please leave a like on this video, subscribe to our channel, and ring the notification bell. Right now, take a moment to drop a comment below telling us exactly where in the world you are watching from and what time it is there as you witness this extraordinary miracle of nature. To truly understand the gravity of this moment, one must step back and breathe in the rich, vibrant world Maya and Booty had built together in the safety of the sanctuary. The environment they shared was a masterpiece of simulated wilderness, perpetually fragrant with the sweet, intoxicating perfume of overripe mangoes, crushed damp ferns, and the rich, loamy scent of the dark earth. Dappled golden sunlight filtered through the emerald leaves, dancing across the coarse wire mesh and the smooth, damp stones of their habitat. Booty was a magnificent creature, a gentle giant whose massive, fleshy cheek pads framed eyes that held the ancient, quiet wisdom of the deep forest. He carried the scars of a traumatic past before his rescue, rendering him initially fearful and withdrawn. But Maya, with her gentle persistence and soft, chuffing vocalizations, had slowly coaxed him out of his shell of isolation. Over the years, they had forged a bond that transcended the typical solitary nature of their species. Keepers frequently observed them sitting shoulder to shoulder in the warm, amber glow of dawn, simply sharing the quiet space, occasionally reaching out to let their rough, calloused fingers brush against one another in a silent language of profound trust. This unspoken connection was the foundation of their world, a deep-rooted emotional tether woven from mutual survival and shared peace, tactile and real, as solid as the towering trees they climbed. When Maya's baby was born, it was initially heralded as a triumph, a joyous celebration bathed in the crisp, cool morning mist of the sanctuary. But the joy was tragically short-lived. A creeping, invisible shadow began to fall over the enclosure, mirroring the sudden shifts in the tropical weather. The once vibrant golden light gave way to harsh, gray afternoons that felt suffocatingly oppressive. Keepers, monitoring from the observation deck, felt a cold knot of dread tightening in their stomachs as they watched Maya's behavior steadily deteriorate. She grew deeply lethargic, her movements losing their fluid grace, becoming jerky and labored. The veterinary corridors behind the enclosure buzzed with a rising panic, the air tainted with the metallic tang of fear and the sharp, sterile, clinical smell of antiseptic and latex gloves. Through the high-definition monitors, the experts watched in desperation as Maya's breathing became terribly shallow, her usually bright amber eyes clouding over with a glaze of unspoken agony. Despite her fierce maternal instincts, she was failing. Her milk supply dwindled and dried, leaving the infant hungry and weak, its tiny, desperate cries echoing like glass shattering in the quiet enclosure. Whenever the keepers attempted to intervene, armed with emergency bottles and blankets, Maya would summon terrifying, adrenaline-fueled bursts of aggression, baring her teeth and fiercely fighting them off. The harsh, fluorescent glare of the holding areas illuminated the human's mounting despair. Maya was fiercely protecting her baby from what she perceived as a threat, yet she was entirely incapable of saving it from the true enemy, her own failing body. The climax of this agonizing deterioration arrived on a day when the sky finally broke open, unleashing a torrential, deafening downpour that drummed relentlessly against the reinforced glass and turned the sanctuary earth to slick, red mud. Maya, utterly depleted, could barely lift her heavy head. Her body was burning, consumed by a severe, hidden postpartum complication, a ruptured internal infection that was rapidly poisoning her bloodstream. This hidden physical truth was the source of the acidic scent of pain that permeated the humid air, a scent that Booty's highly sensitive olfactory senses had undoubtedly detected for days. Maya possessed a profound, heartbreaking awareness of her own mortality. She knew, with an undeniable, tragic certainty, that the coldness seeping into her bones was the precursor to death, or, at the very least, a complete physical collapse. She refused to hand her baby to the humans. To her, they smelled of sharp alcohol, cold steel, and unnatural environments. In a moment of high stakes, desperate calculation driven purely by the sixth sense of love, she turned to the only soul she truly trusted. She pressed her fragile, wriggling infant into Booty's massive, leathery hands. Booty, smelling the deep sickness emanating from his mate, looked into her fading eyes and understood the sheer magnitude of her plea. Defying millions of years of evolutionary solitary biology, he did not turn away. He gently curled his enormous fingers as thick as tree branches around the tiny life, pulling the baby against his vast, muscular, musky-smelling chest. He became a fortress of warmth and protection as Maya finally allowed her eyes to close, surrendering to the darkness. Instantly, the veterinary team mobilized, darting Maya and rushing her into emergency surgery, a frantic blur of flashing lights, the harsh smell of bleach, and the rhythmic, desperate beeping of life support machines. But back in the quiet gloom of the enclosure, Booty was doing the unimaginable. With shocking, breathtaking tenderness, the heartbroken father began to build a meticulous, soft nest from brittle, dry grass and fresh, broad, green leaves. He held the infant with a delicate precision that brought tears to the eyes of the hardened sanctuary staff. When keepers slid bottles of warm formula through the specialized mesh portals, smelling of sweet, milky vanilla, Booty did not retreat. He took the bottles in his massive hands and, with immense concentration, tilted the warm liquid into the baby's mouth, gently wiping away the excess with his rough thumb. For agonizing days and long, lonely nights illuminated only by the pale glow of the moon, Booty acted as both mother and father, his deep, rumbling purrs vibrating through his chest to soothe the grieving infant. Meanwhile, miraculously, Maya's incredible will to live, aided by round-the-clock medical intervention, pulled her back from the brink. When she was finally strong enough to be reintroduced, the sanctuary was blooming with the intoxicating sweet scent of fresh jasmine and damp earth recovering from the rains. Maya, weakened, scarred, but alive, entered the enclosure. Booty slowly approached, cradling their child. They did not immediately snatch the baby back and forth. Instead, in a moment of pure, transcendent grace, they sat together on the damp floor. Booty gently leaned his massive frame against Maya's fragile one. Slowly, visibly, the jagged, panicked rhythm of their chests began to align, settling into a deep, synchronized breathing that melted the agonizing tension of the past weeks directly into the earth below them. Only then, with the gentle touch of his coarse fingers against her soft palm, did Booty carefully transfer the sleeping infant back to its mother's breast. This extraordinary sequence of events leaves us with a profound philosophical legacy that shatters the boundaries of how we perceive the natural world. It demands that we reconsider the true depth of animal intelligence and the vast, uncharted landscapes of their emotional lives. For decades, science has attempted to categorize animal behavior into rigid boxes of instinct and evolutionary programming, painting a picture of nature as a cold, calculating machine designed solely for genetic survival. But Booty and Maya's story proves that empathy is not a uniquely human trait, nor is it strictly bound by the rules of biology. Love, it seems, possesses its own sixth sense, an intuition that can override millions of years of genetic coding when a soul in peril cries out in the dark. Booty's willingness to step into a role completely foreign to his species, driven by the profound trust and unspoken connection he shared with Maya, reveals a level of conscious compassion that rivals our own. It teaches us that the capacity for self-sacrifice, for gentle nurturing, and for recognizing the deep internal suffering of another being is woven into the very fabric of life itself, echoing through the forests just as deeply as it does through our human homes. As we reflect on Maya's ultimate sacrifice and Booty's beautiful, defiant act of paternal love, we are reminded of the delicate, invisible threads that connect all living creatures. Their story is a testament to the resilience of the spirit and the phenomenal power of trust in the darkest of storms. Thank you for taking this emotional journey with us today, and for opening your hearts to the beautiful complexities of the animal kingdom. If this incredible story of survival and synchronized breathing moved you, please make sure to like this video, share it with someone who needs to see the beauty in the world today, and subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into the language of the heart. Now, we want to hear from you. Have you ever witnessed a moment where an animal displayed an undeniable sixth sense of intuition or empathy that defied simple explanation? Share your stories and experiences with us in the comments section below, and let's keep the conversation alive.